New Zealand's budgets for Pacific peoples has been reduced from about $116.2 million to $90.2 million this year. Minister of Pacific Peoples Dr. Shane Reti says funding has to be reprioritised to tackle outcomes in housing, economic development, education, employment and health. Caleb Fotheringham asks the Minister how that works when funding for Pacific peoples is slashed by about $26 million.
All of the priorities we have for Pacific peoples through the Pacific Peoples portfolio are very efficient and well targeted. And what we've done here is meet the expectation that was across a range of portfolios that there would be some back office cuts, but that has not been at the compromise of any of the targets or ambitions and endeavours that we have for the Ministry for Pacific People. We need to imagine that since 2017, FTEs at the Ministry had increased by 269%, almost one of the biggest increases of any ministry, and yet it's challenging to see some of the outcomes that tangibly might have come from that increase anyway. We want to reprioritise our attention and our funding towards really effective measures that improve the outlook for Pacific peoples, and I remain absolutely committed to Pacific peoples.
Okay, on housing specifically, are you spending less on Pacific housing?
Or I would have to look at that, but what we are committed to is actually delivering houses. And as far as I'm aware, I'm not aware of any houses that have been built per se in the recent past from the portfolio. So I remain committed to Pacific housing, and indeed was privileged to open the Penia housing in South Auckland about 3 weeks ago, I would say, as an indication of, we'd been there previously, but as an indication of the commitment we have to housing in the portfolio.
In the Vote Pacific Peoples appropriation, it says in 2023 over $43 million was set aside for housing Pacific families, and now it is around $36 million in this budget. That's what I saw. I was sort of wondering if it is just what it says it is, or if Pacific housing is being spent on, but you just can't see it in this appropriation.
35.92 is the funding for housing, and we're focused on building houses is what this portfolio will do.
So it is a decrease from $43 million.
Well, you've talked about it in terms of housing. Is that just placing people into houses or building housing? What I'm saying to you is that this allocation is to build houses for Pacifica people.
Okay, and the same thing for Pacific Skills Training and Employment. That seems like there's been a decrease of about $6 million. Is that correct?
I'm not aware of what the previous figure was, but I am aware that $12.48 million is put aside in this budget for skills training and employment.
So what I could see is that in 2023 it was $18.3 million, so it's about a $6 million decrease. And I guess to my first question, how does that align with making employment one of your main priorities as Pacific Minister?
What it aligns with is getting outcomes. Not clear to me that at that previous figure, we were getting these sort of outcomes that are really important to benefit Pacific peoples in skills training and employment. And we'll have a more focused approach and be more target driven to making sure that we actually get real value for that money. So it's not just the amount of the spend, it's the quality of the spend. And we want to focus on the quality of the spend as well.
There's no funding for the Pacific Financial Capability Program that was introduced by the previous government. I am aware that was only for a period, but why was that decided not to be continued?
So we're interested in building financial literacy and financial skills as part of Pacific business development, and indeed as part of skills training, and actually part of community homes as well. There's a financial literacy component to that, and helping people actually achieve mortgages into the housing portfolio. So financial literacy and some of the financial tools that we'd like to develop with Pacific peoples sits across several allocations, but Pacific business development is the most clear one.
So this is already being achieved, but in other avenues. Is that what you're saying?
Look, what I'm saying is that we value the initiative, and it's important to achieve some of the goals in other funding allocations. And so financial literacy and financial tools are being applied across several allocations.
Capital funding has more than halved from about $350,000 to $144,000 for the Ministry of Pacific Peoples. What's the reason for that?
Again, it's wanting to focus on the quality of the outcome, and we believe that with reprioritised funding, we can more clearly focus towards tangible outcomes for Pacific peoples.
Does doing that, though, compromise the ministry's ability to look after its own assets?
No, I've had confidence and assurance from the Secretary and Chief Executive that the budget that we currently have and that has come forward yesterday, that they will be able to achieve the objectives that we've outlined.
The Ministry for Pacific Peoples has made a savings of $6.4 million this year. We've spoken about some of the other funding areas, but it's from 116 to 90 million, which we talked about that cut. Where has the rest of the savings come from?
The rest of the savings have come from initiatives naturally concluding, programs that were due to finish, and the main prioritisations have come from the reductions or the resizing that we've done, but then again with other programs just naturally reaching their completion date has also been a contribution to that.
90 million overall for Pacific Peoples. Is this the new normal for Pacific Peoples in budgets, the funding amount?
The new normal is to get quality of the spend, not just quantity of the spend. And the new normal is to get outcomes, tangible outcomes that actually benefit Pacific peoples. That's the new normal.